BCTV Local and African News Summary for Monday, September 29th. The Liberian National Fire Service says an electrical fault caused the blaze at former President 𝐂𝐂𝐓𝐕's 9th Street residence last week. Liberian President Joseph Boakai has emphasized governance reform, economic transformation, and reconciliation as essential to building an inclusive and prosperous Liberia. Organizers in Madagascar say peaceful demonstrations will continue despite President André Rajoelina's dismissal of the energy minister. The London-based energy sustainability firm Watson, Farley and Williams has announced that it has advised the Liberian Petroleum Regulatory Authority on a new hybrid licensing system for oil exploration known as the 2024 Liberia Direct Negotiation Round. The innovative process replaces past failed bid rounds and uncertainty with clear timelines and rules. French energy giant Total Energies is the first company to sign on, marking Liberia's first oil exploration investment in over a decade. The company says the model modernizes Liberia's agreements, strengthens governance standards, and could serve as a blueprint for other oil-producing nations. The Liberian National Fire Service says an electrical fault caused the blaze at former President 𝐂𝐂𝐓𝐕's 9th Street residence last week. But investigators admit they never entered the compound after 𝐕's private security blocked a joint probe team from the fire service, police, and electricity corporation. The fire broke out in the early hours of September 21st. CDC's acting chairman 𝐂𝐂𝐓𝐕 told reporters that the fire caused significant destruction in the private quarters of the president. Mr. 𝐂𝐓𝐕 earlier denounced the fire as a deliberate attempt on Mr. 𝐕's life and a direct threat to the country's peace and stability. The former Liberian leader, Mr. 𝐕, is yet to make any public comments on the fire incident. Front Page Africa reports that President Joseph Boakai has assured Liberians abroad that they will be key partners in his government's transformation agenda and not what he called mere observers. Speaking at the first Liberia Annual Diaspora Conference, he praised their role in supporting families through remittances and urged them to invest skills and resources in national renewal. Boakai pledged to create a transparent environment to protect diaspora investments, citing reforms under his arrest agenda. At the two-day conference in Washington, D.C., attended by a cross-section of Liberians, the Liberian leader emphasized governance reforms, economic transformation, and reconciliation as essential to building an inclusive and prosperous Liberia. You're listening to the BCTV News Summary. United Nations reports that African leaders at the UN General Assembly's high-level debate have issued a united call for meaningful reform of the United Nations and the global order. Leaders from Guinea-Bissau, the Gambia, South Sudan, and Botswana stressed that without changes to the Security Council and greater inclusion of the Global South, the UN risks irrelevance in the face of conflict, climate disasters, and debt crises. Their message was clear: Africa's voice must be heard, and the UN's future legitimacy depends on equity and full participation for all nations. And finally, African News reports that protest organizers in Madagascar say peaceful demonstrations will continue despite President André Rajoelina's dismissal of the energy minister on Friday. The move came after days of unrest over ongoing water and electricity blackouts. Police have used tear gas and rubber bullets against protesters, leaving at least 5 people dead. Businesses in the capital, Antananarivo, have also been hit by looting, with workers describing threats from armed thieves. The protests led largely by students and young workers, highlight growing frustration over poor public services in the island nation. The weather forecast for Monday, September 29th in Greenville, Sino County, southeastern Liberia. Expect overcast skies with scattered showers, high near 83 degrees. Chance of rain about 50%, so keep that umbrella handy. The currency exchange rate is 181 Liberian dollars to $1. In summary, the Liberian National Fire Service says an electrical fault caused the blaze at former President George Weah's 9th Street residence last week. Liberian President Joseph Boakai has emphasized governance reform, economic transformation, and reconciliation as essential to building an inclusive and prosperous Liberia. He spoke at the first diaspora conference in the United States. And organizers in Madagascar say peaceful demonstrations will continue despite President Andre Rajolina's dismissal of the energy minister. That's the BCTV local and African news summary up to the minute.